Good evening. Welcome to another episode of MXDTV. My name is Marc Delgado. I'm your host. You know that. I don't need to tell you that, I don't think. But here you are. Thanks for tuning in if you're here with me. If you're not here with me, well, then you can go to hell. Just kidding. I think it's just you, Melanie. I didn't mean that. I did mean that, actually. I meant it. Thanks, Melanie. Looks good, she says. Got it. Okay. Well, there's you and me and somebody else, I think, Melanie. Triple thumbs up. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode 13 of MXDTV. It's a special Friday edition of MXDTV. How does it sound? Is it loud enough? I turned the mic down a little bit. Just felt like it was too hot. But you gave me a thumbs up, so I'll take it that's fine. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode 13. Okay, thanks. It's on a Friday instead of a Thursday. I'll give you a little background on that if you're interested. Even if you're not, I'm going to tell you. So the deal is that we have a busy life, and we're raising a 5-year-old, and sometimes you got to move things around. And doing it tonight made things a little bit easier. And we were worried about scheduling, and I told Melanie, well, why don't I just move it to Friday night? And she said, you can do that? And I said, yes, I can do that because I'm my own boss. I can do whatever I want. Plus, nobody's watching anyway, right? It's just us. So what difference does it make? So here we are. Friday night. MXDTV. You may notice, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm a little under the weather. And so my voice probably sounds funny. And we're just going to work through it. I've been sick. We've all been sick around here for quite a while. I know the whole world is sick. So it's kind of a strange thing to be dealing with. So we're just going to plow through and see what happens. I have some new things I want to read tonight and some old things I want to read tonight. And I'm going to play some songs too, but I might end up reading more than playing. So I think I'm going to read something first. And not only am I working on a new record, and did I just finish a couple records, and then recording a new one next Friday at Pete's Candy Store, another live at Pete's Candy Store. I'm also working on a book, and so a lot of this stuff that I read is going to go in the book I'm working on. So I thought I'd start tonight with this new thing. I keep trying to come up with a beginning for the book. The book is called The Black Socks, and it's a collection of poems and stories and essays. And I keep trying to come up with a beginning, an opening chapter for the book. And this was my latest attempt. I don't think it's a draft, and I'm going to read it. Reading these drafts out loud can be helpful because about halfway through I'll know how bad it is. But this is something called I'm just calling it prologue. And I'm going to just try reading it and see how I feel. Goes like this. I tried everything. I did. Nothing worked. It all ended in misery, in sorrow. It might sound like I'm making a big deal about it. Maybe I am. But maybe we don't make a big deal out of stuff, and we should. The pain we deal around, the hurt we heap up on top of ourselves and others who are in the middle of the same shit, trying to put it together, make an answer out of nothing. What the fuck? I tried everything and it didn't work. Today, it's more of a lethargy and a regret that govern me. I'm sorry for what I've done. Numerous offenses, too many to count. They come back in waves of memories that are triggered by a movie or something somebody says or a smell or a place or a dream. It is, after all, a river. It is. And I'm sorry for what I've done and who I've been. And I'm a little different today, worn down by time and the decline of my body. It has mellowed me out, as they say. What a thing to say. Yes, I've changed, but only minimally, nominally. Enough to stay out of trouble. Enough to know where the fucking line is and not to cross it. I can keep the damage to a minimum. Of course, those closest to me will still suffer. I am not blameless, and I am not noble. I am trapped in here. And the lethargy and regret, they are old companions. Even older than that old hack, Mr. Sorrow. It's funny to talk about him now. I feel stupid. And you, of course, are dubious. I'm sure you've cocked an eyebrow at the mention of him. Well, let me tell you, he is as real as this computer I'm typing on, and as real as the thoughts that pass for feelings in the tributaries of my brain. And yours, too. It's real. Mr. Sorrow, is real. I am real, and so are you. It's all real, unfortunately. Or maybe not. I sat in the back of the church and watched Melinda Thrasher get married. She was engaged to a soldier. He was away, and we were together. Not in the way you think, though. She was an actor. She belonged to a dinner theater troupe, and I would wait out in the parking lot for her to take breaks between scenes, and she would smoke or I would smoke, and we would laugh, and I would put my hand on her arm, and she would laugh with all those teeth she had and curly hair that she wore tied back with a scarf. That kind of thing really knocked me out. It would you too. But she married that soldier, and I sat in the last pew of the church at their wedding and watched, and I cared a little bit, and I was sad. But the truth is that I didn't really give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck about anything then. I think I enjoyed the tragedy of it, unrequited love and all that. I care about it more now when I think of it. Another fuck up, another missed opportunity. I squandered everything, didn't I? I wonder about her now. I wonder about Rochelle and Kate and Andrea. None of them will really talk to me, I suppose, and why should they? I don't blame them. It's selfish of me to want them to forgive me and talk to me and act like we are old pals. We were lovers, and I hurt them. I hurt every single one of them and countless others that don't make the list. Did you know that Tom drowned in a jacuzzi? He did. Who is Tom, you ask? His name was Tom Gibson. Later on, he wanted to be called Thomas, whatever. He was Tom. We were best friends for years. What put us together? I don't know. Our capacity for pain, our ability to consume large quantities of drugs and alcohol far beyond that of the others. We thought we were smarter than everybody else. I still think maybe we were. We were like a sinister supervillain duo. We outsmarted and outplayed and manipulated everyone around us. And we liked it that way, and we laughed about it all the time. We hated ourselves, and we hated everybody else, and we were going to hurt you before you hurt us, and we hurt each other constantly, and we fought each other all the time. And once, after a brutal fight in his bedroom while his alcoholic mother slept one off in the room across the hall, we lay there out of breath and bleeding and coked up out of our minds and laughing and crying. And Tom put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "I never want this night to end." And it didn't really. We went on like that for a long time until we couldn't anymore. There was too much bad blood and betrayal and cocaine between us. And I moved away to Sacramento and then San Diego. And that was when I got the phone call from his brother Jerry and found out he had drowned in a jacuzzi just days after he had bought his own restaurant. Sometimes you have a real cry, an authentic one, where it just bursts out of you like a cough or sneeze, except it's more involved than that, and it just racks your whole body, and you shake and you spit, and it moves you like a convulsive laugh, except it's not a laugh, it's a cry. Even though half the time you are laughing, and you think, am I laughing or crying, and what the fuck is happening to me? And that's what I did after I got that phone call. I cried. I think that I have only really cried authentically a couple of times in my life, and that was one of them. And if I had to pinpoint the source of the cry, sadness or regret or pity, I would be unable to tell you if it was any of those. Okay. Is that a good way to start? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not, but that's how we're starting. I see there's a few people with us. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to play a couple songs from the record from Wildwood Road. I've been kind of playing other stuff and trying out some new stuff. And tonight it's going to be all, well, usually I read other poets or other writers. And tonight I've decided I'm just going to read you all the stuff that I'm working on for this book. And you can feel free to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It's a Marc Delgado retrospective. Anyway. This song is called The Queens of Coming and Going. It's my favorite song I ever wrote. And it's also my most popular song, if there is such a thing. And I'm happy about that. The room was rich with magazines. The chain had been released. And in the darkness, you could see her fingers sick with rings. And there were no more wedding bells. The planes had split the trees. And they sat on the edge of the bed with the queen of the London scene. And it was a time of infamy, a time of fallen kings. And in the courtroom had been laid bare, truth had been decreed. Thought you might get away, we thought that you might break free. That's when you found out that you'd been ensnared by the queen of the London scene. And in the orchard, while you dreamed, a shadow did appear. And there was something cold and dark poured in your ear. And you tried to listen and you tried to hear, but there were only screams and a mouthful of bad advice from the queen of the London scene. That's my favorite song because I always wanted to play a song like that. That's kind of it reminds me of it reminds me of Paul Simon, and it reminds me of Bob Dylan, and wanted to be able to play like that for a really long time. But I wanted to write a song that addressed the way I lived for a really long time, and it's kind of a dark subject, but I wanted to write it in a way that wasn't too morbid or too depressing. It's a little vague, and it's a little imagistic. So you have these images that kind of tell a story, but you're not quite sure what the story is. And then there's references that nobody could get because they're personal. Somebody told me not to use the London Motel because it sounds obviously European, or it sounds a little exotic, and I think that's the best part of it. There was this really shitty motel in Fresno called the London Motel, and that's a real place. Not anymore, but it was a real place, and it was one of the shittiest places I've ever seen. It had this very particular smell, and I spent a lot of time at the London Motel. Now I'm going to play you maybe my other favorite song. And I knew you'd come dressed in a sweater, and I know you'll stay through the winter. When we are done, I'll feel much better. I'd rather be dead than sit here and wonder about you, the things that you sell, the heat waves of August, the freeways and the London Motel. Can you be kind? I'll never be rid of the feelings you always remind me of. Smiling your charm, waltzing through Fresno in summer. I'll be alright again once you've left my side. Downtown is cold, chill can be bitter. It's hard on the bums, the girls on the corner. When I see lives on fire, I know that it's you behind the pyre. Yes, you. The stories you tell, bookstore killer, the freeways and the London motel. Can you be kind? Never be rid of feelings that you always remind me of. Your smile and your charm across the bridge to West Sacramento. I'll be alright again once you're by my side. Those songs have a lot of the same references in them. Just really like both of those songs. They are very real to me, and they're exercise very particular demons, so to speak. I find when I'm trying to talk about everything and write about everything, it all seems dreamlike. And I talk about that a lot, and I talk about what's real and what's not real, and I often don't know the difference. I came across this poem that I've been working on, and I thought I'd read it. It's pretty short. And I don't know about it much, but I'm just trying to put all of this stuff together into some type of... Oh, look, there's Russell Little. Russ Little wrote Mighty Fine. I'm glad you're here, Russ Little, because number one, I'm playing your guitar, and that's nice. And I'm wondering about that date in June, if we're going to play that date. Are we going to play that date at the art festival? At the art? Thanks for the compliment, by the way. I'm wondering if we're going to play that date at the art. What's that place called? Expressive Arts. Will we play there, Russ Little? I'm asking you now, in front of the whole world. I'm putting you on the spot. Also, I was thinking about playing. There it is. We are going to do it. June 25th, San Diego. We're getting the band back together. Russ Little's poet, a modern day poet, like in the olden times. I was thinking about playing some songs that you and I used to play together tonight. And so now that you're here, I know that I will play them. I'm going to first muddle through this. Thanks for setting that up, by the way. And I'm gonna read this particular poem that I've been working on, and it needs work probably, but I'm gonna read it anyway because I think there's some good bits in it, accompanied by some not so good bits. But we're gonna try it. All of this stuff kind of goes together tonight, and this one is called The difference between being asleep or being awake is minuscule, if anything at all. And it goes like this. Everything comes back to dreams. The books I read, and every time I fall asleep, I surface in some place I have been before, the house with stripes and metaphors, run by that ancient master of deceit and passion, Mr. Sorrow, speaking to me in the way I love to be spoken to. With all the possibilities of desire and hunger and fear shaken out with humor and delight, he is ever present still. After all this time, I am not immune or safe from the suggestions that appear seemingly from nowhere, but they are subtle in their appearance and stranger still in their persistence. There is, I now know, no such things as good days or bad days. I no longer have to put groceries in bags and take them out to people's cars and talk about ridiculous headlines perpetrated by fools, or listen to what somebody thinks about our current president, who I believe is some kind of fool. I don't have to serve anybody food or bring them drinks, and I believe it has hampered my ability to enjoy somebody bringing me food or drinks, and the inescapable conclusion that it is an unwinnable engagement, this hospitable charade of sitting down and letting somebody serve you. Because it is our job to serve somebody else, and the moment we engage in the taking, then we are suddenly merely she who takes. But somebody has to be the recipient, and why can't it be me? I'm so tired of these round arguments. Who is serving who, and does God exist in the details of a menu, the cyclical aspect of a radish, or the curved feel of a plate, or a cup poised at the edge of a table, just waiting to be sipped or spilled? I want to partake of something natural, and I try. Every now and then, these days, I'm just a little bit okay. But in dreams, I still spend more time trekking across old terrain, a tiny apartment in the dark, and the screen flashing and groaning, a staircase that winds around itself, always to a little room. The faces are hidden, and the bodies stand too close to me, and I know them, but I resist calling them by name. I have rid myself of their corporeal presence. I no longer see them in front of me, only in the dark passages of sleep, the activity I avoided for so long. My waking life was the dream. I never slept. I had no need for passive engagement. I walked around in a fever, seized or consumed by the act that my passenger, my lover, my killer had set before me, set before us on the table of discovery and pain, his striped arm draped with a linen napkin, his face stretched in a grin, his dinner jacket perfect, his hair groomed and flat against the rough edge of his looming and hollow face. I knew I'd botch corporeal. Oh well, that's how it goes. I'm going to play a couple songs. Russ Little, you'll recognize these songs if you're still there. This is one of my all-time favorite songs. It's written by Sam Beam, better known as Iron and Wine. And it's one of those songs I wish I wrote. It's a It's definitely tailor-made for mama's boys like myself. I am an authentic mama's boy, but this tune in particular I really love. I'm fascinated. I had my eyes checked today. I had my every 2 years I go and get my eyes checked and I get a new prescription. It's similar to this prescription. I can see okay like this, but I can't read at all without these. And every time I go for an eye exam, Dr. Guarente tells me my eyes are doing pretty good, but they're every year they decline a little bit, and they get a little bit worse. So I'm dying. So I'm fascinated by the passage of time and our role in that. How we start out as a kid and become an adult with a kid, if we're lucky. Anyway, this song is really good. I'll try not to mess it up. It's called Upwards Over the Mountains, and it's on, I can't remember what record it's on. It's on one of the early Iron and Wine records, but you could do no wrong in getting any Iron and Wine record and listening to it, in my opinion. Mother, don't worry, I killed the last snake that lived in the creek bed. And mother, don't worry, I saved some money up for the weekend. Mother, remember being so stern with the girl that was with me. Mother, remember in the blink of an eye when I broke through your body. So may the sun rise, bring hope where it once was forgotten. 'Cause suns are like birds flying upwards over the mountains. Mother, I made it up from the bruise on the floor of this prison. Mother, I lost it all to the fear of the load I was given. Mother, forget me now that the creek drank the cradle you sang to. Mother, forgive me, I sold your car for the shoes that I gave you. So may the sun rise, bring hope where it once was forgotten. The suns are like birds flying upwards over the mountains. Mother, don't worry, I got a coat and some friends on the corner. Mother, don't worry, she's got a garden we're planting together. And Mother, remember the night that the dog had her pups in the pantry. There was blood on the floor and there was fleas on your ball. You cried till the morning. So may the sun Rise, bring hope where it once was forgotten. 'Cause sons are like birds flying upwards over the mountains. Eli, the barrel boy of the old town, sells coal and marigolds, and he cries out all down the day. Below the tamaracks, he is crying, corn cobs and candle wax for the buying, and all down the day. If I would, I could afford to buy my love a fine gown made of gold and silk, Arabian thread. She is dead and gone, lying in a churchyard. And I must push my barrow all the day. And I must push my barrow all the day. Eli, the barrel boy, when they found him, he's dressed all in corduroy. He had drowned in the river down the way. They laid his body down in the churchyard. When the moon is out with his push cart, he calls down the day. What I could afford to buy my love a fine gown made of gold and silk, Arabian thread. I am dead and gone and lying in a churchyard. I must push my barrow all the day. I must push my barrow all the day. I wasn't going to play that, but if you're still there, Russ Little, that was absolutely for you. How many times have we played that song? don't know. I'm going to read a couple more poems. How are we doing on time? We're at 40 minutes. Okay, perfect. I'm going to read you a couple more poems of mine. And how many times have we played that song? 100. That's a Decemberist song. Another two, Iron and Wine and Decemberist, two of my all-time favorite bands or songwriters. Sam Beam, Iron and Wine, and what's the guy for Decemberist? Colin Malloy. Great writers. Colin Malloy's written a bunch of great young adult fantasy books. I've only read one of them, but they're great. And his Decemberist records and Iron and Wine records are just a immersive experience. And to me, that's like what making albums is all about. You put them on and there's stories and these rambling songs, and they're just so unique and beautiful. And I really love both of those writers. I like that Eli the Barrel Boy. It's a lot like, it's just like an old folk form. It reminds me of the other one I like to play a lot, which is Wayfaring Stranger. It feels like the same song. It's also the same song as what's that great Gillian Welch song? At Least 20 Acres. We Cannot Have anyway, that it's kind of all the same song. You've heard that, all those chords put together in the same way. Anyway, I've read you some stuff that is a work in progress. Now I'd like to read you a poem that I think is done. And I've read this one before, but I'm going to read it again. And this one is called Light is Transitory and Always Failing. It's for my father. It's in sections, so I'll tell you the numbers of the sections before I read them. Here's one. My daughter was 4 when we were attacked by wasps in the front yard of our house in upstate New York, where we weathered the early years of her life, the pandemic, and my father's death. I was stung first. A dark scout from a nest in the ground crept inside the lip of my boot and pierced my calf, a signal to the rest to defend the queen at all costs. 2. I traveled a great distance to be there at the foot of a mountain on the edge of a wood, all the way from the San Joaquin Valley, where summer chokes the light and light is transitory and always failing. Where I spoke a very particular language, drug talk, private slang, free verse, and slant rhymes. Stuff I picked up on basketball courts on the west side, twitching at the elbow of the free throw line, trying to shake a defender, to execute my signature mid-range jumper or drive hard to the rim. Leaving the ground with the ease I had then, my head humming, with Mexican red hair sensimilla and gangsters' voices echoing off of the hardwood and vaulted ceilings of home's playground gymnasium. 3. Huddled in the dark pews of the South Wing, chewing the shit out of my cheek, and Peter Everwine trembling from the podium at the Art Museum on Dakota and Clinton, where just outside the shrouded wolves waited, and inside I was learning how to use words and images to change the dismal scenery of the Central Valley and the seemingly hopelessness of my cause. It was the first time I had heard a wrist compared to a star. Or anything, really. What an elegant word. Wrist. Oh, what an infinitesimal piece of dust I was then. 4. Anyway, It broke the monotony and violence into stanzas, and I took up with the bruised and angry motel girls on Golden State Boulevard along Freeway 99. 5. I thought then that I wanted to become a minister, and I chose a path not unlike Jesus, who also favored the company of prostitutes and walked out across the water and spoke to fishermen from the impossible twinkling waves and laid waste to the money changers with a whip he must have borrowed or up until then kept like a secret to himself. And who knew he knew how to use such a thing? Who knew? Once, evangelizing on the street, the group I was with turned their backs on a drunk begging for change, and they did it, I know, because they knew not what it was to need a drink. And so they missed an opportunity for salvation. After all, was it not Christ himself, torn and bleeding, beat all the way down to shit, asking for a dollar or two there on Olive Avenue? Among the lepers and the stoned, Earl the Pearl whirling with his hand out, a human turnstile. 6. We had stumbled upon something as old as a hive of wasps buried in the ground, an invisible pestilence, moving from one pair of lungs to another, one cruel gesture at a time, blacked out beneath a swarm of bees. It came to nothing. My wanting to be a priest or a scholar. In my mind, it was the same thing. Whip merchants, piss off Pharisees, write a poem about the futility of fishing, and finally bring the adrift back to the shore, one by one, to breathe relief. But I guess I didn't know how tough things had become. Christ. 7. My father departed this earth in stages. It makes sense when you think about it. His mind cut out before his body did. He was a marathon runner, and the whole gist is to turn off the brain and settle into some type of rhythm despite the pain. He did, however, go down swinging at the minimum wage workers and indifferent bureaucrats who had assumed control of his life. He was a man who had learned about freedom on his own terms. Time, his nemesis and companion, he mastered the sub 6-minute mile and the 8-hour plus workday, then in glue-gun shoes left the earth in long exploratory flights of time and space and endurance. You don't need that, he would tell me whenever I was in the throes of desire or dissatisfaction. He would point to my shoes in disarray on the floor and say, "Fix that." 8. What can I tell my daughter after such a vicious assault? That it's going to be okay? We sit up in bed late into the night in the dark and talk, sometimes to each other, other times to our invisible and old companions that we have imagined or endured, and we secretly listen in on each other's conversations, amending and smiling into the parts of the story that make no sense. I had this idea that, I get these ideas during the course of the day about all these things I want to talk about, and it all leaves me the minute I get here. I heard this. Melanie just gave me 1, 2, 3, 4 hearts. It's nice to have one person on your side. Thanks, Melanie. What was I saying? That poem, it's interesting to read it now. I hadn't read it in a while. That poem's done. And you can tell the difference. You can tell the difference in the ones that are not done and the ones that are done when you read them out loud. whether anybody's listening or not, but you have to read them out loud. I used to get drunk and walk around my room and read things out loud. And I used to love to do that. I still read things out loud, but I'm not drunk. But I think there's enough left over. There's my sister. Thank you, Franny. That's for my eldest sister, Francine. Thank you. I heard this. I was going to say something about this. There was a couple things I wanted. I was having a hell of a day, and I just haven't been feeling well. And it's hard to get when you're not feeling well. Everything feels worse. But I heard this headline. I heard this headline today, and it can't be true, but it's absolutely true. And it's just mind-boggling. But I'm going to tell it to you off the cuff. I was going to come home and research it and have more information for you. And I was actually going to try to write something about it, but of course I didn't get to it. But I've heard this thing. I'm listening to. I'm an incessant channel surfer. Oh, there's my other sister. She did a thing. I can't see that. Oh. It's an explosion. That's code for us. Okay. Thanks, Vicky. Hi. That's my middle sister. Those are my sisters, Vicky and Franny. I heard this headline on NPR today while I was driving. I can't stop changing the channels. I have satellite radio, and I just constantly change the channels. And I go from Howard Stern to NPR to classical music to classic rock. I heard this headline on NPR, and it can't be true, but it's absolutely true. And it's this. It's in South Carolina. There's a guy on death row. I don't know what he did. He's 57 years old. I remember that because I'm 52, and I thought, ooh, that could have been me. But this guy's on death row for probably some terrible shit he did, or maybe is wrongly accused. Who knows? I don't want to get into that, but this guy's on death row, and he's going to be executed. I think it's next week. If anybody has heard this story, and I get something wrong, please correct me. But he's going to be executed in a week or so, and he gets to choose. They've given him a choice, and he's going to be executed either by firing squad or the electric chair. And it's been a while since they've killed somebody by firing squad. That seems antiquated, more antiquated even than the electric chair. But I guess because it's so difficult to get the chemicals or the whatever's needed to do to poison somebody to death. So it just sounded so crazy to me. And I guess they give him the choice. He can pick. It reminded me of the Saturday Night Live sketch where they were like, would you rather be, eaten by a shark or mauled by a bear or something? Anyway, it's just the most crazy shit I've ever heard. And firing squad. Grapes cut a long green scar across the face of the valley floor. And like all wounds, it tells the story, the song of how the West was won. 'Cause out in California, the harbor town's a killing floor, washed with methamphetamines, and all the longshoremen's hands, they bleed through a cracked glove upon the wheel. 'Cause out in California, you find the sun. The harbor towns, killing floor, washed with methamphetamines, and all the longshoremen's hands, they bleed. If you crack the glove upon the wheel, 'cause out in California, and up north the capital gain, make the rules for everyone. And a man with a suit and a chain, well, he's with you when he's gone. Crowned with a head full of thorns, Sodom and maybe Gomorrah. 'Cause out in California, they spend their nights in bars, and they ride off in a stretch limousine. Maps to the movie stars, 'cause they want to make you believe. 'Cause out in California, out in California, out in California, you find the sun. That song, I've had that song, it's been around. There's so many verses to that song. And I just like, that's another one I really love to play. I love to sing it. And, the only, I'm trying to like, so when the record came out, when Wildwood Road came out, it was, I got it reviewed by a lot of, the reviews were okay. They weren't great. Not that they weren't favorable. What I mean is just they weren't really that great. They just weren't that great. There was like typos in the reviews, and there was weird sentences, and that kind of stuff really bothers me. And then when people reviewed that song, they totally got the wrong. They thought, Delgado describes the beautiful landscape of California and this and that. It's exactly the opposite. Anyway, that's a bummer. The only thing that, like I've told you about that headline, and you just, I get like New York Times headlines pop up on my phone, and it's just like one bizarre thing after another, and none of it makes sense. And it just seems like such bullshit. Everything seems like such bullshit. I don't know how else to put it. I don't mean to sound negative, and but everything is just kind of doesn't seem true. I think that's what that song is about. Nothing seems true. They sell you this thing, or the way it's even talked about. And even now, politics it's just so blatantly, like they just talk about the sides and the agendas, and it just seems like such bullshit, and it's hard to get behind anything. The only thing, there's a great Dennis Johnson book called Angels, and that book really gets to the heart of it for me. I'm not making any sense. There's a couple more poems here, and I wanted to do one more song. Can we do that? There's a few people with us. It's been an hour. I thank you for tuning in, if you're here. I'd like to read this one more poem and then do a song. Should I just do the song and then read the poem and then we'll be done? I want to play this song. I'll just play this song. This is for you, Melanie, if you're still with us. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. I'm a Kinks fan. I love the band The Kinks. I think they're just maybe one of the most, well, I don't know that they're underrated, but they're such a great band. Anyway, I love this song. I'm going to see if I can remember the words, but this is, if you've ever been in love with somebody or spent your time, an inordinate amount of time with somebody, way beyond what you thought you would, this song is for you. This is definitely for you, Melanie. It's called Strangers, and it kind of speaks to the passage of time thing I've been talking about and how weird everything is. Oh, hey, there's Mike McGrath. Yeah, the news cycle's on repeat. It's like a nightmare we all share. JP? Who's JP? Anyway, hey, Mike. Thanks for tuning in, brother. It is a nightmare for sure. This is a song called Strangers, and I just love the words to this song. And I'll try not to botch it, but this one's for you, Melanie. Where are you going to? I don't mind. I killed my world and I killed my time. Where do I go and what do I see? See many people coming after me. Where are you going to? I don't mind. If I live too long, I'm afraid I'll die. So I will follow you wherever you go. If your offered hand's still open to me, strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. So you've been where I just come, from the land that brings losers on. We will share this road we walk. Mind our mouths and beware our talk. To peace we find, tell you what I'll do. Everything I own I'll share with you. If I feel tomorrow like I feel today, take what we want and give the rest away. Strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. Holy band and holy priests, this love of life makes me weak in my knees. When we get there, you make your play. Pretty soon you're gonna carry us away. Promised lie you made us believe. For many men there's so much grief. My mind is proud but it's filled with rage. If I live too long, I'm afraid I'll die. Strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. Strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. Let's see. Oh, John Prine. Okay. Thanks, Mike. I should have known. Yeah, Ray Davis. No, I think you're right. I think you're right now that you mention it, Mike. I think he did say that. Sounds about right. Hey, Peter Condaxis is with us. Hey, Peter. How's it going, man? How's Vermont? Cold? Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We're a little over an hour. If you, for those of you that are still with us, I'm going to finish with this poem that I believe is also done, but maybe not. This is a poem called "There Is a Dream." Oh, I can't do this like that. This poem's a little bit longer, and so hang in there with me. We're almost done. If not, thanks for tuning in. Love you. This is a poem called "There is a Dream and There is a River, and therein lies the natural world." Goes like this. The white table glows in the room, and on the table there is a camera, a Hasselblad from Gothenburg, Sweden, blessed with the Gotha Alv, best known for industry and trade, and served as model and inspiration for the Pony Express, snaking its way from St. Joseph, Missouri, through Olaf Bergstrom's Nebraska to Sacramento, California, where I drove a 1974 Volvo into the ground, and the woman I bought it from but never paid repossessed it one morning while I slept one off and woke to find a box of papers in half-glass pipes and twisted and burned strands of chore boy in the foyer of the place on 26th Street, where I joined the denizens of the distal ring of downtown, hustling pool at the Monte Carlo, arrows at the streets of London, sitting motionless at night in the Capitol Garden with frozen bronze statues that never spoke a word, but wept a chasm of tears in the footlights of the Vietnam War Memorial. I believe I dreamed everything. The arrival of Mr. Sorrow in the anteroom of the striped house, his left hand clenched beneath his jaw, his right finger extended to the many rooms that I will eventually occupy and materialize in, and know I have seen them before. One in which I lay beneath a clear tent bound to oxygen I can no longer summon on my own. Like my neighbor, Mr. Sherman, gasping between syllables and eking out sentences while he paused on his front lawn, the mower humming and kicking out gasoline, and his wheeze, a tiny drone that preceded my love for postmodern, classical avant-garde, and somehow was a harbinger of my fate, my shit lungs that I inherited from some unknown early twin in Spain or Poland or Ireland, who poured whiskey over ice and was unfaithful and unkind to everybody he knew, and then, in a hairpin life turn, with a dead right arm and skin as thin as tissue paper and a head full of invisible friends, stopped lying and stealing and drinking, and slowly became someone else. The person they wanted to become, which was nobody, nothing, a wisp of air, a downed tree branch, a circus tent collapsed on the edge of town, Ray Bradbury in his waffle iron frying eggs in the morning for his children who didn't know he had a job at all other than caring for them, which he did wholeheartedly, and then lit a tiny lamp at night and wrote stories about Mars and tattoos and circuses, not necessarily striped, but dangerous and fun, like the one I worked in as half human, half ram, alongside the fat lady and the silent man for years. Another room where a small child is huddled in the corner and won't look at me, and I have an uncontrollable urge to kick it. The dream has variations, but is essentially the same. Mr. Sorrow in stripes, a house with many rooms that I cannot exit by going back the way I came. I can only proceed, and every time the spiel is the same. Are you ready to play the game? Are you ready? Once I got my ass kicked by a friend because I had stolen his girlfriend, and she was the only one who didn't know I was the wrong choice. I stole more from both of them than the beating could cover. There is a whisper of a scar on my top lip where his fist opened the skin. I got what I came for, he said to me as we stood there, my blood spilling onto the sidewalk and his face howling with rage, and the knowledge that no matter how many punches he threw, he could not change the trajectory of events, and he could not regain what he lost and so desperately wanted. The moon is full and shines incandescent, a giant white tablet in the sky, a perfectly round egg, a hug and slap from outer space. The natural world is a letter filled with sentences in an obscure hand. It sits on the table in the dark room next to the camera, the envelope torn open and discarded on the floor. There is no return address. Inside the envelope with the letter, a map folded several times, many times. Folded and folded, it resembles a square, and I am not willing to unfold it. It does not matter if I open the map, because I am going to the destination designated on the map, and I don't need it. I will get there anyhow. And I don't need to read the letter, but I have read it many times already. I especially like the part on page 3, after the greeting and the pleasantries and the early trouble that came and went. It goes like this. In your house, you have found a table and a chair and a camera. You hear the voices in the other room. Your name has changed 1,000 times. The white table glows in the dark room. There is no chain on the door. There is a moon in the sky, round and perfect and white, so unlike an egg. It is the most perfect egg you have ever seen. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us. There's a couple comments here, I think. Oh no, we covered that already. Okay. Mike, Franny, Vicky, Melanie, Peter, Russ Little, thanks for joining me. Whoever else might be out there, thank you for joining me. I've gone on long enough. I'm glad we did this. Thanks for showing up on a Friday night. Have a good weekend. Stay dry and stay safe. Love you. See you next week.